going on there? Welcome to Gemini's Kitchen.
Aenaon, welcome to the podcast. This is really exciting. I'm so glad that you're coming and you're here back on the podcast a second time. You're actually the second recurring guest I've had so far. First off, what made you want to come and share your voice and everything again? What drew you to this podcast? Because a lot of people will go on a podcast one time, but when you go on twice, it seems like you really do have something to say. And I've been paying attention to some of your postings lately. So Aenaon has been coming out with a lot of very philosophical content, which has spoken to a lot of people, and he's projecting these messages of trusting yourself, of living with the world, of rejecting your ego. A lot of really good, very important ideas. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so recently, bro, I just feel like the world's at its peak of narcissism. And I think narcissists get favored in society. Obviously, the boss is always a narcissist, and that's how business is. But I think the world just needs a big kind of wake up and a big change.
Yeah.
And people recently is just very greed-centered, very lust-centered. Of course, that's our human nature, in my opinion, is like make sure we're good. But it's like when everything else is bad and we're still like, at least I'm good, that's a problem. You feel me?
I totally get that, and I love how you're not afraid at all to just unrelentlessly project these messages out to the public, because people typically are very nervous to say something when they feel something, but clearly and put it out there, because maybe in a way they're scared of people not liking their message or opinions. And in reality, you've just got to go for it, as you've been doing sort of nonstop. So you put out music. Talk to me about your latest projects and what you're working on right now.
Recently, I'm working on a very abstract concept and a very revolutionary kind of rap. I have a song called Abstract Americans. Fuck all that bullshit that went down recent in history, because it's really wrong and unjustifiable.
Yeah.
And I have one of the lyrics in the song is no dogs or no Greeks in the store, because there was a sign back in Lynn, Massachusetts, even just 60, 70 years ago.
Wow.
That said no dogs, no Greeks, no, like, in the store.
Really? Back in the 70s or something
60s,
like that?
yeah, the
That's
Irish.
crazy. Oh yeah, I know there's a lot of history in Boston, and I wasn't aware of that discrimination that the Greek people had gone through. Maybe you'd like to talk more on that, because I think a lot of people are unaware of that or any history of discrimination against Greek people in our country.
So it's really deep. I just went to Greece for the second time recently, and my uncle told me a story. When he was a kid, he lived in Lynn. My great-grandmother moved from Alexandria, Egypt to Lynn, Massachusetts for obviously money, and that was all a sham, because the American dream is kind of like made up, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, the American dream is made up, and it's just an idea, it's not a dream, and you have to find your own dream. And I was just saying how, like, we all get lured in here for money, and then people are working their ass 40, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I know some people work barely to scrape by. That shit is crazy for that, like, luxury lifestyle.
Yeah, and I like this idea a lot, because it forces us to consider other things as well, such as the fact that what are all humans who exist currently? There are 8 billion of us right now, 8 billion humans on this planet. What are we spending most of our time worrying about, talking about, fighting about, even working for? It's all sort of utterly very meaningless when you zoom out and you look at the universe and how big the universe is and the possibilities of what might be out there. So it makes me think, why don't we all team up, forget the tribalism, forget the bullshit, we all team up and we figure out the secret of the universe, because that's a question we've never answered, but we all act like we know it. Why do we exist in the first place? Why do humans exist? Why does the universe exist? And why is there something and not nothing? And I think that's a point that you haven't said it directly, but you've been communicating it with a lot of your content recently. You had this one wonderful post. You guys can check him out on Instagram. Have it linked down below. Talk to me about that last post, because that was just filled with messages that really spoke to me. and I think a lot of people.
Yeah, that was a very deep and meaningful post, and it's something kind of outside the box. I feel like I usually just post my clothes, you know. I have all these materials I've obtained from various things, and it's like that's not really my true form. At the end of the day, I have a very physical appearance that is my true form, but I also have a very mental and philosophical like ideology of the world. And I really do believe that humans have kind of just gotten too smart and just too advanced in a way, and we are losing touch with our regular wild instincts. And I remember meeting someone in New York. He said, if you can't eat, sleep, or fuck, you're not human. Because like I feel like so many people are just working. They don't have a relationship. They don't have any goals in life. They can't like fathom the reality without like their iPhone. It's like we live in a very robotic box. Almost.
That's a big one. We have this culture this sort of virus which has infected our society in the sense that these social media algorithms are just stealing people's time. That people are getting addicted and they're on TikTok scrolling, Insta Reels scrolling, whatever it is, for 8 hours a day, and that's like a huge detriment, especially to the young people, because in history, if we look back, it's always been, not always exclusively, but largely, big changes have occurred by the young people getting out there and making things happen. And right now, our young people are more or less addicted to TikTok and all of these things. They're not really attached to their direct material life. And I'm speaking to myself in a way too, because it's not like I haven't struggled with these issues. I just want to put this point out there because I know a lot of people are struggling with it currently. The way I got over it, I deleted those apps from my phone. Obviously, I went back and re-downloaded them 2-3 times, but eventually, if you just keep fighting it, you're going to win mentally. And that's something, a big point of your career and a lot of your lyrics, you're putting out this point that if we fight hard enough, we can overcome all obstacles in our path. And I can tell that's how you're living. Talk to me about this business that you've been planning and starting. We touched on it a little bit in the last pod, but I think it's a really good idea, and I think it will have a lot of value, especially in a city like Boston.
So firstly, I do want to thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate this, bro.
Of course.
And for just the exposure. I do believe that I have a purpose here on earth. And I know that's your channel's name right now. It's Purpose.
I changed it to ithink pod, but I still have Purpose on like a side thing. So that's part of my brand too.
And I did have a great grandfather who wanted to own a restaurant. He was a chef. He was from Greece, Louis Aliferis.
Yeah.
And he never got to go through with it. The chef idea fell through. Something happened with the money. He started making ouzo in the bathtub instead, and blew up the bathtub. It was during the Prohibition.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And so, I've kind of had a similar start story to him, like kind of like behind the scenes, trying to like brew up my own concoction and get by, but it kind of blows up in your face. So now I really want to throw my chips in the right basket 100%.
Nice.
And make a legal and active move.
And talk to me about that. This idea you've got, and I've noticed some of the products you're really experimenting. You're making a great product. Talk to me about that. This new, is it going to be a hybrid delivery service, or how is it going to work exactly?
I'm thinking it's going to be more of a live music centered service.
Nice.
And it's not going to be like to go, which you could do, and I might do in the future, but I really want people to come together.
Nice.
I want to have live music. I want to have a huge artful wall like you can see around my room right now. I love art. I love cool things, colorful, like anything colorful.
I love that.
And I like people to sit down together, get high, eat good food, and feel good.
Nice.
Like enjoy each other as human beings as we're here.
That's really awesome, and I really admire that pursuit too, because a lot of the times when we think about business, there are a lot of people, entrepreneurs out there who are chasing something that is not going to really benefit society, and they're chasing money, and it just sets them up for disaster, because it's like, I'm an entrepreneur as well, so I chase money, don't get me wrong, but I learned that you have to chase money in a way, because karma is a real thing, guys.
Definitely.
Karma is a very real thing, so you have to be looking at the implications of what it is you do. If you're trying to sell a product which will hurt people in any way, you shouldn't be doing that. So you have to be promoting positivity through your business ventures, and that is how also you will be blessed with success, because people will reward that. Talk to me about CMOS, because you've been a big proponent of CMOS for a while now. You have your brand, obviously. What's it called?
CMOS. Oh, Gemini's Kitchen.
Gemini's Kitchen. Okay, so what he's been doing, you've got these CMOS, these gels, right? So you get them in a little mason jar. I just checked it out. They're really cool. So you've got all these different flavors. You're infusing it with natural juices and organic produce. Talk to me about CMOS, and why do you believe in CMOS so much?
So I just really think CMOS has a lot of health benefits that a lot of people are unknown to. And I think it's 96 out of 102 of the minerals in your body are found in CMOS.
Wow.
Because it's in the ocean. The ocean's a very resourceful place. And you can just have 1 teaspoon a day. You'll be good. Your skin will start to clear up. You'll feel a little better. Your gut will clear up. And I infuse it with 6 or 7 fruits, so it tastes really yummy. You can make smoothies. Just put on something, some granola, whatever.
And okay, I really like that. And yeah, I see the thing with CMOS. What do you say to, because I have noticed online a lot of negativity attacking the CMOS industry, saying it makes false claims, things like that. What do you say to those people?
I mean, I think you gotta just believe yourself and try it before you judge it. And just like anything, obviously an advertisement's an advertisement. People have to sell something. But they'll say real cheese in this country, made with real cheese, made with real this. That's like a red flag right there. What do you mean made with real? You gotta say that? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that. I really do feel that. And I really respect the organic vibe that you're going through with this company. So can people, I'll link down below. He's going to be launching on the internet. You're going to be able to buy this CMOS. So you can just click that link that we'll have down below, and you can order it. Order up. He has the different options, different sizes, but CMOS is something that I honestly would recommend to anyone to try. You know, even though I haven't tried it myself, but I'm planning on trying it just right now. But I think CMOS and just anything natural, I'm drawn to those things, the super organic things, because as humans we really do need that. So check that CMOS out down below. Also, talk to me a little bit more about fashion, because you've been making a lot of waves within the fashion industry recently, especially around here. And I've been hearing talk and everything that you're thinking there's rumors always, but you might be launching some project soon with fashion.
So I've been keeping it kind of down low, and obviously I'm in between many worlds right now, trying to figure out which world is going to be like the most beneficial for our world. But I have always thought about having my own brand, being a one-of-one brand only. I'm not going to mass produce clothes, cheap Chinese clothes, which are probably taxed now anyways. I'm going to throw clothes from the thrift, rip them up, do my thing, paint, little pictures, stitches, and then I'm going to sell them one-of-one. There's something called No Twins Allowed.
Nice. I like that.
Why are you looking like someone else outside? Look like yourself.
I like that concept a lot. That's something you've always communicated as well through your sense of fashion. It's that sort of idea of being seen but understated. So you want to be seen. Well, the art speaks for itself, but you can tell with the fashion you're doing, it's not just trying to draw a reaction, but it does in a subtle way. It's something I just talked about with my friend Yandi, who's also heavily into fashion and everything surrounding that. Give me a little background. Tell me how you got into fashion. How did you get into your artistry? Because you're one of those multi-talented artists, and a lot of people out there question, like, can I do that? How does anyone do that? Because there are a lot of people living with the mindset they can only do one thing in life.
I mean, that mindset's very limiting. I believe a lot of people have talents from when they're children and kids. And I started writing poems when I was about 7. And I used to freestyle poems when I was a kid. 7th grade, I used to write whole songs when I feel hurt or pain. And I could just always write and rhyme. I was always pretty good at that. And then artistry, I always liked to match my shoes with my shirt. And then my sister was also into fashion a bit as well, and she got me into more of like a feminine fashion sense too. And I used to like steal her clothes. Sorry, Dara. And I just wore her clothes to school, and people would be like, "Damn, bro, you look cool." And so I found my own kind of style too, like thrifting. And I used to thrift for my sister and my friends.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a big one that's made a comeback. Thrifting. I think it's good, obviously, to be recycling these items in that way. And so I've definitely been into thrifting. What I wanted to ask you about regarding this kind of wave that's happening now in Boston, you're seeing almost what some people are calling a renaissance, with lots of artists, lots of different groups making a big impact on the global stage. Are you predicting, how is Boston gonna blow up, as people are saying?
I believe so, and I believe that this city does deserve a little more exposure in the creative and artist industry, because we've been really school, health, education based for a long time, and there is a lot of people who are like stuck in between worlds here, who are struggling to like make that kind of lifestyle happen. So it's nice to have another lifestyle to lean back on. But what I would say is, 100 years ago, we were in the roaring 20s, 1920s. It was all about music and fashion, and everyone was so yip-de-doo, like we can do what we want. And I just want to remind people to be careful, because what happened at the end of the 20s was the Great Depression, stock market crash, and all of that fun we were having just got. So I think we have to be responsible this time around and not let history repeat itself.
Of course. I think that's a really valid and great point. And the idea of learning from history is super valuable, because a lot of the times we tend to forget history, but history repeats in constant cycles. That's a concept called cyclicality. So things tend to spin around and repeat themselves in all aspects of life. But when you look at society also operates in cycles, and that's something that we ignore a lot of the time. But take a look at exactly what he said regarding the Roaring 20s and the Great Depression. We can apply that to now and take a look at the Renaissance in the 1400s, 1500s. Right now, this quantum computing and AI wave is going to be very comparable to that when you zoom out of history. We can also learn from history in the sense that we tend to repeat past mistakes. I think the word tribalism is a very important word to put out there right now, because tribalism has always been the detriment of society. That's where all of our problems come from. When you look at life through the lens of, those are the bad guys, we are the good guys, that group is wrong, there's something about them that's wrong, and we are right, you're being completely ludicrous, because first of all, nobody even knows why we exist. So how are you going to tell someone you're right over them and that your group is better in any way? Also in the sense of opinions as well. And just in general, there are some things we all disagree on, murder, etc., bad things, and that's something we can all just feel in our bones. But in life, we tend to look at, this country, that country, this political group, that political group, this group of people, that whatever, and then we make judgments and we compare them to our group. That's the big thing. If we get over that as a society, there's nothing that will stop us. So guys, just remember, get rid of tribalism, and like Aenaon said, learn from history, because things repeat themselves constantly.
I 100% agree, and I do want to jump in and say that I am kind of leaning towards religion in a way. I've always felt kind of connected in a deeper sense towards a religious kind of background and purpose, because obviously I'm Greek, and the Orthodox Church is a very prominent part of society. But that's the thing, Christianity got broken down into so many different kind of churches. The truth was lost a long time ago, and I don't think there should be any difference between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity when it's all based off Abraham.
Yes.
And I've been studying so much religion recently, it's making me go crazy, and like it feels like that entity called the devil's after you, but I realize what you think about turns into life.
100%.
I also realized once, like, the devil and God, they can't live without each other. And
You're
it's
right.
like, it's almost like they're fighting just to pass time on the way. And it's like, you can't live without each other regardless, light or dark, good or bad. Like, the whole schism.
I think that's extremely important. What you said just now, you said you realize that what you think becomes life. So this is the whole point. This is why I call my podcast I Think. Because I genuinely believe that we can control our reality, our emotions, our...
The CIA, they know about manifestation better than most people.
Yeah,
and
talk to me about that.
They have a little
The
up
CIA
on society, because they're very smart, they're sober-minded, they see clear, and they use it obviously for protecting our country and also destroying other countries. It's very dark and deep, and MK Ultra, if you don't know, is an experiment where they control people's minds with acids to change how they think and perceive the world, and supposedly they still control celebrities and different people in Hollywood with this tactics. And it's just dark, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Also, I'm not sure what time it is, but I know you're a busy man, you have to be somewhere. Tell me if we have to wrap up.
I said we can go for another 15.
Alright, word. Okay, alright. So talk to me about this, because this point, thinking becomes reality. Just like I said, that's my whole brand. I think, because I'm convinced at this point that anything in life is up to us thinking. And I'm not saying in a magical way. I'm not saying, magic. What I'm saying is that when you imagine what you want in life and you're able to take a second and get out of your ego and look at what you want, the specific goal. So my goal, obviously, first goal, financial success. So that will propel me to be able to do other goals. That's a big goal. I want to be doing something positive to get there. That's why I'm trying to highlight these different voices and ideas. But long story short, when we think something, that's when we're able to make it happen. So any negative thing that you guys go through in life, it can all be avoided if you strengthen the muscle of your mind enough. If you strengthen your ability to walk out of your ego, and you can look and you can say, all of the bad things are also the fault of the ego. All of the negative emotions, just like the pride and positive emotions are part of the ego, the negative ones as well. So I'll give you an example. When I walked out of my ego, I noticed that a feeling of betrayal is from my ego. If someone screwed me over and I'm upset about it, that's me placing so much importance on some little moment of my life that was affected by someone. That's not important when you go out of your ego, and then you can say, okay, don't worry about it, move on, keep finding, just like in that book that I gave you, you have to keep going and getting up and keep moving and figuring out how to get towards your goal. All of the negative emotions can be avoided, and they're a huge distraction. So I like that about your vibe, because you're always promoting positivity above everything else.
Alright, bro. I do want to backtrack a little bit, because I feel like we've been going really fast, and life is really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice to slow down sometimes. I want to go back to about the Greece thing.
Oh, of course, yeah. Talk to me about that.
In Lynn, when it was probably 1960s, an Irish kid threw a brick from the top floor of a building at my uncle's head, who was 1 year old, and he was getting carried by my great grandmother.
That's crazy.
And it's just crazy that even in Greece and like Italy, I don't know if people know this, but you can get made fun of for working hard in Greece. Like if you're in the sun all day, you're considered like the brown skin. You're considered poor because you've been out all day working.
Yeah, I think in a lot of Europe they have a culture of criticizing people who try to work hard and like do their own thing. I noticed that a lot. But so you think it's really prominent in Greece, is what you're saying?
It is still, and I do think it's kind of talked about. And they had the anthropologists go to Greece recently to decide if they were Middle Eastern or white, which obviously is a very mixed place nowadays.
Yeah, because of the Spanish too, and were the Moors involved in Greece?
Not too much. I think it was more so like they came up from like Egypt, obviously, and like, a lot of Greece's information came from Egypt, and I do believe like Africa and Iraq.
Oh yeah, Cleopatra was Greek.
Where Gaza is right now is like kind of the basis start of history, and like what's happening right now is unacceptable.
The cradle of civilization.
It's insane, bro.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So what is your message to all of the people and politicians out there who are obsessed with continuing these wars and promoting a culture of constant war?
Like, please have a heart, because people out there are suffering and don't deserve this. And I know that there's a lot of people out here, and it's hard to have resources for everybody. But if we put our heads in the right place, we can all live together in peace and prosperity and use the world for its natural resources, which it was gifted to us. And it's like everything is a blessing. I love working in the kitchen. You look at the mangoes, you look at everything you cut, the carrots, it all has like little patterns in it, just like the palms of our hands. And it's almost upsetting, like we're just cutting through this palm of our hand for like a promise of something.
Yeah, I think
that's why like manifestation is real. That's why I think that we're all the same, and I think that we all are just becoming one again.
Yeah, that's a big point you just made, because there's this myth that goes around, which is that we're all born different. I honestly don't believe it. I believe that, sure, physically, but when you examine the mind, I think it's really a blank slate. And then everything that happens to you in life leads to who you are today. I know it's a very, I don't know, not controversial, but just unpopular opinion. Do you agree with that, or do you think people? What did you mean when you said you think we're all the same?
By perspective point, we all have the same exact world. We're all in the same dimension, the same galaxy, right? But we all function on different vibrations, and just like your feeling of betrayal is a low vibration, your feeling of failure is a low vibration, your feeling of loss is a low vibration. When you feel love, that's a high vibration. You feel proud of yourself in a way that's not too arrogant, that's a very high vibration. When you feel generally happy and satisfied with yourself, that's a very high vibration. And I think people just need to learn how to sense their own vibrations. And I said in the last podcast, you have to balance pleasure and pain, which is really hard for a lot of people, including myself. And it's so easy to become addicted to something and just feel that pleasure for so long, and then we don't have it, you just feel pain.
Yes.
And it is the world is a double-edged sword, which is like, there's this part in the Bible, in the John's Apocalypse, the last book called the Revelation. And the Lamb, which is supposed to be like the Omega, the Alpha, the beginning and the ends, he kind of rises up with his double-edged sword coming out of his mouth, pretty much. And my uncle always says that's life, is a double-edged sword, because no matter which way you want to turn it, you might cut someone or yourself. And life's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a fine line, you know. A quote I like a lot, I forget the philosopher, but the gist of the quote, he's some Russian philosopher from a long time ago, but maybe Russian, I'm not sure exactly, somewhere in that area. But the gist of the quote is that the line between good and evil doesn't run through political divide, it doesn't run through geographical divide, it doesn't run through any, who you are, anything. It runs between everyone's heart. It's somewhere on your heart, everyone, because everyone is capable of good and they're capable of evil, and we should stop judging people as purely either of the two, because when we take a look at ourselves, we can realize that we have both in us. It's just a matter of having a good control over the evil and realizing that the evil brings you down, like you said, in a vibrational way. Talk to me about astrology and your opinion on that.
I think we're all connected to the stars, and astrology is very important to me. And a lot of people hate on Geminis.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate on Geminis.
Why? Why do you think?
Because we're fucking awesome and we're assholes.
Yeah.
But I think we're very honest people in a way, and we're not scared to show who we are. And obviously some of the best rappers out there were very out there. And there's the OG I met at the end of the year, and he taught me about rap a little bit, how it's not only just the person rapping, but it's the person making the beat, and it's a teamwork, it's an effort thing. And he was telling me, you gotta just rhyme and talk shit. All rappers do is talk shit, bro. And Geminis are the best at talking shit.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a Leo. Do you have any opinion on Leos or know anything about it?
My girl is a Leo.
Full of fire, yo.
Full of fire. Yeah, I like that.
Very passionate, very, like, I feel like you're very proud of who you are in a way. And very,
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me because I wasn't always proud of who I was. I was always very uncomfortable in my own skin for most of my life. And really, like, I don't think it was anything I did. I think it was more like I believe in demons and angels, so I think that some spirit inhabited my body and decided, I know this sounds fucking crazy to a lot of people right now, but I believe, I'm not saying I fully am convinced, I'm saying I'm open to the idea that potentially some other spirit, through the form of a probiotic culture or something, infested my body and is deciding to use me to do something. So I really believe in that a lot. And because I don't know if you remember, when I met you, I was honestly like a different person, and that was only 2 years ago, but I was way less comfortable in my skin at that point. I had been dealing with a lot of just the typical things kids deal with, and like we tend to think they're so important, but they're just not when we zoom out.
propaganda, man.
100%. Before we wrap up, talk to me about your inspirations. Who are the people that motivated you and inspired you to be doing what you're doing today?
I gotta give a big shout out to Immortal Technique.
Who's that?
A very underground rapper he's very much an activist, and he's an OG
Okay.
in the game at this point.
Nice.
But he still be doing concerts, and he gives back to people in the projects all the time. And he's just a very generous person, and he's very proud of who he is, and he's a good role model.
One more thing I want to ask you before we wrap up. I ask this to a lot of artists because I get a lot of different answers, and this is my favorite question to ask to an artist, because I don't think many people ask it to artists, especially musicians. So if you have to describe your sound to someone, say a reporter like me is asking you, how do you describe your sound? Give me a one sentence that summarizes your sound in your own words.
Forever flowing, everlasting, never failing.
Forever flowing, everlasting, never failing. You heard it here, guys. This has been a wonderful 9th episode of the ithink podcast. Thank you so much, Aenaon, for
Hold
coming
on,
on.
I gotta show them the baklava.
Oh, 100%. I'll end this clip now, but we'll cut to showing off some of his products. All right, Aenaon, talk to me about this. Talk to me about this. What are these? What's this one?
So this one is a cynical made with seasoned lamb,
Yeah.
Dadonis feta, and spinach. It's marinated in balsamic.
Okay.
And then it's obviously wrapped in phyllo dough.
This one is fire, guys. You gotta check it out. Gemini's Kitchen, right?
Yep.
Gemini's Kitchen.
And this one is a more sweet kind of version, the dessert kind called baklava. It's
Baklava.
Honey roasted pistachios, it's butter, cinnamon, and basically that's it. It's not too much else. It's phyllo dough again.
That's awesome.
And we got the gooey cinnamon buns, which can be infused
Nice.
with the
Where can they buy this?
Gemini's Kitchen, Rosendale, I made.
Gemini's Kitchen, Rosendale, and made. These are the best products made with natural organic ingredients. They're flying off the shelves, guys. Hit up Gemini's Kitchen. That's Aenaon right there, CEO and chef. Peace out.